this, and then us sitting on either side of it.
That is true. I'm kind of sitting in it.
And your big head ain't covering up the
Yeah, I gotta sit tall.
There you go. Are you ready to start this thing?
Yeah, let's talk about...
Alright, so, welcome back, Reblogatog number 8, because we know you've been watching all of them in order like you ought to have been.
That's right, number 8.
Number 8. So, let's get started this week, shall we? By now you know how this goes. Mark Rosewater has a Tumblr account. I guess he's the last person on Earth with one. Everybody's doing that TikTok-y thing.
Oh, so you heard him talking about Blogatalk.
Yeah. So anyway, he answers questions every week, and we bring the more interesting ones to you, hopefully. So we call it Reblogatog after his Tumblr account, Blogatog. Anyway, our first one this week is I've been looking at Garuda.
Garuda, yeah.
Garuda. Her hybridness feels strange to me. Does Mono Blue now have access to reanimation, or is this a break, a bend? He says the Council of Colors talked about this. Mm-hmm. The effect isn't reanimation. It's mill onto the battlefield.
Yes.
And it's not an effect we've done before. As blue and black are mill colors, we decided it made sense for a blue-black ability. But that is a hybrid blue-black ability.
That is a hybrid.
We've talked about hybrid in the past. How hybrid, sometimes they do things they might not do other ways.
Hybrid is whatever is most convenient for Mark Rosewater to tell you it is right now. See?
Well, I'm not going to say Mark Rosewater. I'm going to say R&D.
I'm going
to say R&D, whatever it makes sense for them to print a card. Look, I got rammed through, and I got some cool stuff, all right?
I'm not arguing. I'm just...
So, I know what happens for the other colors. I just don't like to see it happen for blue. Blue's got plenty. Quit giving blue stuff. As a matter of fact, could Ashiok Dream Render be printed as a mono blue card? The exiling the graveyard is a bit of a bend, but yeah. Because blue exiles graveyards... As a bend. It makes sense that blue would get rid of everything, the knowledge it had that it has forgot. I don't know.
It's getting rid of other...
Amnesia?
It's getting rid of other... Yeah. But it's getting rid of everybody's knowledge. So.
Yeah. It loves knowledge, but let's get rid of it.
How many times has Jace lost his memory?
Well, there is that.
It's a very blue thing.
But he doesn't opt to lose it. All right, we're going to talk... I'm going to quit doing these maybe after this week. We'll see. But we're going to talk a little bit more about Companion. Hey, Mark. Doesn't Companion mechanic break your game design truism, as you called it in an article recently, that variance tends to make games fun? Thanks! I'll admit for years I was worried, always starting with the same card in your hand wouldn't be fun. But then came Commander, which a large amount of players have deemed fun. So, there's that.
I just want to... I believe Companion's something they've been working and bandying about for over a decade, just the way he even words that. For years, I believed that starting with an 8th card would not... I think something where you started with an 8th card is a mechanic they've messed with for a long time.
Could be.
And they've just finally found a way to actually make it work.
All right, so... I don't know which one of these. There's a couple more that deal with it, so we're jumping ahead a few days here.
Just taking care of all the Companion
I'm going to leave
stuff.
this one for last because we'll preface it by a little bit.
All right.
The most important part of Magic the Gathering from a gameplay perspective is the variance from one game to the next.
Right.
Companion has undermined that. I get that you were inspired by Commander, but there's a difference. Commander is held together by unwritten social rules, the social contract.
Right.
That prevent it from being turned into an unfun game for your playgroup. Competitive formats are not. When there are people in your community calling for a ban in Vintage, of all things, you messed up. Please understand this. Now, we have a lengthy reply.
We do.
People called for us to get rid of Standard when it was introduced. Called Type 2 at the time.
That's right.
We know this because they're sunsetting the Planeswalker points system, and we'll talk about that on Chatter, but people wanted 6th edition rules removed when we introduced them. I got letters saying double face cards were the death of the game. Players historically react strongly to new and different things. What history has shown us is to give new things some time to breathe and let the world adjust to their existence. Players tend to overcompensate at first as everyone's focused on the new thing.
Oh, yeah.
If after the dust settles, and remember, the vast majority of Magic players haven't even played with the cards yet. That's me. I don't do digital.
I've played this much with them.
Things are problematic in certain formats. We have tools to adjust those formats to correct issues. The game has lived through Necro Summer, Combo Winter, Affinity, Storm, Dredge, etc. It can and will adapt when necessary. But for everything on that list, there was other things that at first seemed problematic. But eventually the players figured out ways to adapt to it, and it didn't end up needing intervention. I agree that Companion has potential to be something we will need to adapt to. I'm just asking to follow the lessons of history and give the system and the audience time to absorb it first. And we got one last comment that kind of brings up Companion a little bit. And this has to do with Mark Rosewater, who had an interview with the professor on the Tolarian Community College. And so that's what he's referencing here. So I watched your interview on TCC, Tolarian Community College, and honestly it really upset me. I already knew how many people work on Magic Set, how much time and effort goes into it, and how much passion the people that make it have for the game. And I think doing lunch and coffee breaks virtually is cute. I mean that in a good way. And then I log into MTG Arena, see a Companion, and lose my mind. I don't get how people that care so much and put so much time into the game ever thought Companion was a good idea. Am I insane? Possibly. That's not from him. That's commentary from yours truly. Part of what makes Magic magic is that we push boundaries and experiment and try new things. Part of doing that is sometimes things end up stronger than you anticipate. Mm-hmm. Trust me, in 10 years, players will be mad about the latest thing and nostalgic about Companions.
I believe that.
I think that's true.
That's definitely true. I believe in the comment before that, when he had replied the long comment back, he makes the best point right here, is that this game has lived through Necro Summer, Combo Winter, Dredge, Affinity, Storm.
Oh, yeah.
Companion is not going... Is Companion worse than... Did you guys play in Mirrodin? Is Companion worse than Affinity when it hit? And, just...
Is it worse than Necro?
Right, I mean...
Oh my gosh, that almost killed Magic.
Yeah, Affinity almost killed... Mirrodin just... I don't know, is Companion that bad?
I think there may have to be a few of them banned, but
yeah.
I think, again, nostalgia. Whew. I may have a sneeze that you have to edit. We'll see.
All right. Well, we'll see.
All right, moving along.
I might edit it. I might not. We'll just see.
Hey, hoping you are staying safe. I am loving Ikoria so much. Quick question. Does casting a commander for its mutate cost bypass the commander tax or no? It does not. The commander tax does apply. It's an alternate cost to casting the creature.
Gotcha.
So alternate cost, yeah, still gets a tax. Why did Narset get a card in Ikoria despite her inexistent role on the story?
There's a story?
Would that be non-existent role in the story? Okay. The story isn't the determiner of how many planeswalkers are in the set. Gameplay is. Huh. We make as many planeswalkers as Standard can comfortably hold.
I totally understand that gameplay dictates how many planeswalkers you put in a set. But if you're going to put the planeswalker in the set, wouldn't it make sense to somehow connect her being on that plane with the story? That's all I'm going to say. I don't know anything about the Ikoria story, but it does seem weird to have somebody just kind of...
Well, we've learned in the past that the story and the R&D aren't necessarily communicating on the same time frame and same level. I don't know when they commission the story, if it's after the set's made, while the set's being made, after it's finalized.
Right.
They're not always meshed up, I noticed that sometimes people ask you about returning to planes that didn't sell well. So I figured out why that is. Well, that's nice. The players who were there to experience the set itself had taken a break from Magic or moved on, while a lot of newer players joined the game that seeing the existence of such set in the past made them also want to experience a visit to the world because they didn't experience the set's limited and standard environment if it wasn't successful back then. That's a big run-on sentence, my man.
Yeah,
He's saying that the old players that experienced it got to experience it, and new players come along and go, ooh, that looks neat. I wish I could experience it. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
So here's the issue. This is the answer. We return to planes roughly half the time.
That seems right.
That means in a 2-year period, we get about 3 returns. There are a lot more planes we can return to than there are planes to return to.
Right.
We do a lot of market research about where players want to return to. That's where we focus our choices. Social media allows the enfranchised players the opportunity to be vocal about their opinions. That does not necessarily line up with the larger market research data. So just because you might hear certain planes talked about a lot on this blog doesn't mean it's representative of the wants of the majority of players. And that's a thing that is a recurring thing I've noticed on Blogatog. Enfranchised players read Blogatog.
Yeah.
You're an enfranchised player if you're watching this. Enfranchised players are not the same as the average player.
As your true kitchen table casual.
Yeah, you're more enfranchised, so you may have a particular like from an old set that a new player just doesn't know about, you know. So it's they do market research. If you guys ever did a survey, I've done several of them on many sets.
Yeah.
And they take that and then they look at it. That's what it's for. And that's how they judge that and how a set sells over time and so forth. They use all that information. There was an earlier question, I guess I must have deleted it, but where he talks about 1- and 2-step spells. So somebody asked, what's the difference between a 1-step and a 2-step spell? Because he made reference to it in a previous ask. 1-step means I just have to take one action.
Right.
2-step means that I have to do a secondary thing, like pay an additional cost. Kicker spells, for instance, are 2-step. So if you have to do another thing, then it's a 2-step.
If there are 2 steps.
Yeah. That would be accurate. Despite Ferocious having a 7 on the Storm scale,
I didn't know it was a 7, by the way.
It has been reappeared several times, although unnamed. And we've talked about that in the past. When the keyword mechanic isn't in a set and they use the same thing, they don't use the keyword.
Right. We see it with
too much terminology for new players to have to keep up with.
Landfall's the biggest one. We'll see.
Oh yeah, there's lots of landfall.
There's lots
cards.
of landfalls that aren't keyworded to landfall.
So it was even an archetype in Theros Beyond Death. Why has Ferocious been used this much when it is high on the Storm scale? The explanation is quite simple. The keyword is high on the Storm scale.
I feel a little bit like, stepping around an answer, though, just a touch to you.
No, not actually. Keywords, by their definition, generally don't have reminder text.
That's true.
Okay? They might on a low rarity. They might have, like on commons.
Right.
But and as just a one of, it's easier to process. And they spell it out because they just write it out on the card.
That makes sense.
What it does. So, as a keyword, it's a 7. I like Ferocious.
Yeah.
Because I like big, beefy things to beat face with them.
It's cool that we get the Ferocious Light ability, from Theros right out, when we get Ikoria, but it almost feels like it could have been in Ikoria if they were going to go with the, caring about the big creatures.
Ikoria's got enough. We don't need
that's
anything
fair.
else in there. All right. The thing I love the most about Lorwyn is that every single creature belongs to a supported tribe.
Yep.
And even a lot of spells. I also love tribal super type. Boy, do we have some bad news for you. That's no longer supported, my friend.
Hasn't been for a while.
My friends and I chose one tribe each at the time, and every booster pack we traded the cards based on our tribes. It was amazing. Lorwyn is my favorite set ever. I've been playing since Mirrodin, and I think that's the reason. If we can't return to Lorwyn, may I ask for a set with this characteristic? Thanks in advance. One of the biggest issues with Lorwyn from players was it was too on rails. That is, the tribal theme was pushed so much that you didn't have non-tribal options, especially in limited formats. We saw this repeated again in Ixalan, where they did the factions. So you were basically merfolk, vampires,
pirates, or dinosaurs.
And again, it made for a limited format that if you could nail one of those 4 factions, you were probably going to do all right. If you couldn't nail a faction, or you tried to put something together, it didn't work out.
It was all a mess.
Lorwyn was very similar because of the tribal thing.
The limited.
Oh, look, I have a tribal elf card spell, but I didn't draft elves. You know, I've got green, but they're not elves.
Yeah.
So you lost synergy. You know. So that was a thing.
I didn't draft. I wasn't around to draft Lorwyn, but I drafted lots of Ixalan, and that was a big problem with Ixalan. Like, you either got that Merfolk deck or you got a pile of junk. Kind of thing, you know.
That's how I thought I could tie it to newer players. They would understand if they were around for Ixalan, which isn't that far ago.
No.
All right, so every once in a while, Mark Rosewater does a
If and win day.
Well, he does like a gimmick day sometimes.
Well, yeah.
And if win is one of them. So I'm sure he'll do another one in the next couple months or so, and we'll see. I'm trying to remember what some of the others are.
I feel like he did one that we talked about not long ago, a few weeks
back.
If
win he did this past week. So, because he had promised us one a little while ago. So we're going to explain what if win is. Let me get to that. You all asked me about the chance of something returning or coming to a standard legal Magic set. Has to be standard legal.
Although you
can specify if asking about a supplemental Magic thing. And I will say one of 4 things. Mm-hmm. It used to be just strictly if win, but he's clarified 1 or 2 times ago.
Yeah.
Big win. I have total confidence this is happening at some point. So he's sure a big win is going to happen at some point. Could be the next set we get. It could be 5 years from now. Yeah. Or longer, I guess.
Assume that means it's something they've actively been talking about in R&D. When do we have the opportunity to use this?
Little win. I believe that this is something we're eventually going to do, but I have a little less confidence in the thing happening.
Right.
Then there's a little if. I don't know if we'll do it, but, whoops. Did I just mess up? Yeah, hold on. But there's a decent chance we might someday, if the right circumstance come along. Big if, I'm skeptical we'll do this, but maybe if the stars align. A few caveats. Number 1, this is just my opinion, based on my experience, and it's meant for entertainment purposes, and it is.
Legalese. Okay.
Number 2, I ignore any knowledge of what we're actually doing. A big win might not currently be in the plans, and a big if could be happening next year. Number 3, I cannot hear unsolicited card or mechanic ideas. And number 4, please do one if win proposed. That said, I hope everyone enjoys if win day. So let's get into some that I narrowed it down. If win, the Raven Man getting a card. That's a little win.
I'm glad it's a
win. We can put that on a scale of 4. That's a 2, right? With 1 most likely happening.
Yes.
Win because we make lots of cards, so known requested characters have a decent chance of seeing print one day.
Fair.
Little because it's a tricky character to make a card for.
That's also fair. They've still never revealed hardly anything about the Raven Man.
We don't. It's tied to Liliana's past, but we just don't know a lot about the Raven Man.
Right.
We know that he's probably exactly nothing like the Muffin Man.
Probably. He may still live on Drury Lane, though. I'm not sure.
He might. If win, another standard legal set with slivers. I was surprised. He says little win.
I was a little surprised there.
But I've read enough to know why. Slivers are for sure going to see print again. Having enough design space in a standard legal set is a bit tricky, but definitely a possibility. The other thing is they have to get ahead on some mechanics they can give them. There's
true.
So many slivers in existence. They've used all the evergreens. They've used all the kind of greens. They've used all the used to be greens. They've used all the wannabe greens.
Right.
You know, they're
most of the deciduous.
All the deciduous. They need events to put on the slivers. Otherwise, you're just making the same slivers over again. So
I don't think sliver players would gripe about another muscle sliver, though.
Probably not. This person said win if. A supplemental product specifically aimed at pauper players. Now, this is a big if.
Right.
And I've got an idea on this, but I'll read his answer. We love throwing a bone to pauper players when we can, especially in supplemental products with reprints where we can push the definition of common a little.
They do that very well in the.
It's
Supplemental
hard,
set
though,
lately.
dedicating a whole trading card game product to a format that ignores the uncommons, rares, and mythic rares, as rarity is core to TCG identity. That's also what sells packs. Let's be honest.
Right.
And he's honest. He doesn't beat around the bush on stuff like that when you ask.
If you ask up front, yeah.
But I've long thought, and maybe there's not enough of them to do it, that if they would take some cards, like
Oubliette at Mythic.
Oubliette. Oubliette would be a great Mythic Pauper, right?
Yeah.
So make
Pauper
that
Masters.
a myth. Yeah. So I think with a little work they could do it.
Yeah.
It'd still be printed at common somewhere, so you could still use it in a Pauper deck, but it'd get more in print.
You're right.
And it'd make a draftable set, which is what they have to do nowadays, I think it could be done, but it's probably a lot of work.
It is,
deciding what
like-
what gets popped up to mythic rare.
Right. Like I said, making sure to be able to find enough to actually fill out like a set. Because finding 15 commons to make mythic, like, we can all go, ooh, oubliette.
Yeah.
But then we're like, oh, crap, a set has 14 more in it, doesn't it?
It does. And to color balance that,
Yeah.
and then to come up with rares, Okay,
Yeah.
so I get it. All right. If when lightning bolt in a standard legal set. That's a little if.
Little if.
It really warps the environment. We did it once, though. Yeah, little if.
Little if. Hey.
Little if. It warps the environment.
But it's not a big if. That's a
Yeah, it's not at the bottom of the scale. It's just near there. Hovering.
Hey, just let me hope.
If win Modern Horizons 2. That's a big win.
Yeah,
It almost sounds like a big win. Yay, we won! Big
yeah.
win. Their first one did really well. That means a follow-up has a good chance of happening. And this, I could have told you this without him answering it.
Oh, yeah.
Modern Horizons 2 is going to happen. I can't imagine that it wouldn't.
Yeah. Maybe they're going to try to not break Modern as much this time, but it's definitely happening.
If win more Changeling. That's a big win. Changeling is an important tool, which I assume will get used again. We talked about it probably before we started doing the Reblogatog separately.
Right.
But he's talked a little bit about, I believe, enough about Changeling that I think it's coming maybe even in Core Set 21.
Well, we did just see it in Modern Horizons, though, so that was part of the talk about it, I assume,
We
in the last
did,
couple
but
years.
that's the answer for Tribal, he says.
Right. He's even directly referenced, we were just talking about limited environments like Ixalan, that would have made Ixalan better. I believe I've seen him specifically.
We could have mixed and matched, and yeah.
You would have had a much better limited format to draft
Definitely.
if there'd have been Changeling.
So, there's that. If win a winter ice-themed plane. That also is a big win. I put a lot of big wins on here.
Yeah.
We make a lot of worlds. And he says this on a bunch of stuff that I didn't put on
Right.
here. But a lot of these things that gets bandied around a lot, they're big wins because they make a lot of worlds, they make a lot of cards.
Yeah.
So a lot of things are possible. If win a paper supplemental remastered style set, a la Tempest Remastered. Now, I don't play Magic Online, but I know this is a Magic Online
Yes.
set where they took Tempest Stronghold and Exodus and made one set out of it. Remastered so that they get those cards into the online environment. The ones that people wanted, that
Right.
they played in constructed environments. All the chaff got left out.
Right.
That's a little if. I could imagine it happening, but it would require finding the right set and the right remastering.
Right.
I believe this is going to come up again.
This is going to come up another time or two, and that's something what is the right set? And I almost think that the better, you could do whole blocks where you could do planes. I mean, they, in a very miniature version, that's what guild kits kind of were, almost, when we went back to Ravnica in a very miniaturized version.
Sort of, yeah. Here's somebody just asking little win or big win, another unset. And that's a big win.
Yeah.
Unstable did well enough that I think we'll get a fourth one eventually. I'll even go so far as to say that it's on the schedule. Now, there is a 5-year schedule, but I'd say there's one on the schedule. And I personally think we're not more than 2 years from it. But that's just a personal thought.
How long was it ago? About 2 years since we got our last one? Yeah, you're probably about right then.
Yeah. If win more double-faced creatures that transform into planeswalkers. That also is a big win. DFC planeswalkers, are very popular, so my guess is we'll make more one day.
I would like to see that. It's a very cool concept. I wasn't playing when they first came out, but I mean, I've obviously played with them in Commander, and I think it's cool. I really wish we would have got to see our idea, or mostly your idea, for War of the Spark before it happened, though. Planeswalkers that flipped back into legendary creatures and lost their spark. That'd be a very cool. If you had some that flipped into Planeswalkers and some that flipped back, that'd be really kind of cool, especially in like Commander to build with and stuff.
Sure. All right, so if when a world with a strong 2-color theme that's not Ravnica. He says that's also a big win. Players love colored faction worlds, and 2-color factions can't always be Ravnica. I don't know, they haven't proven it yet.
That's true.
We've been to Ravnica 3 times now, so we'll see as we go on. I personally am done with Ravnica for a while. I like the factions, I like the 2 colors, I'm Selesnyan through and through, but a little bit of Golgari. Right. But I'm definitely Abzan. Right. But I would like to see another take on it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure that we will see it. I don't know. Onslaught or Odyssey, that was our first gold set way back. Was that just on Dominaria? Or was
Invasion was before that.
Invasion. That was on Dominaria. We haven't actually had another plane that was like a gold plane other than like Lara that's a 3-color, and Tarkir. Nothing that's...
I don't know. You're not going to count Khans of Tarkir that was wedge set?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Lara and Tarkir that were 3-color sets.
All right.
Invasion and Onslaught, all that stuff that was kind of gold sets, those all happen on Dominaria. So I guess we haven't seen another place that really does the 2-color thing.
Right. This one I found interesting. If when enchantment tokens, that's a little win, especially in a supplemental set. I thought that was intriguing.
I think that means
enchantment tokens. Huh.
We've had the closest... The enchantment commander deck from that Planeswalker. Estrid. She makes some kind of little
enchantment tokens.
Yeah, but I think that's the closest we've actually seen so far.
If when poison counters return in standard, this will cause some talk.
As soon as I read those words, I went, "Oh my god!" I know.
I think poison's return is a big win. How it will be executed is still up in the air. That, to me, speaks volume. Yes. He is a big proponent of the poison. That's his baby. One of. I mean, squirrels are his babies, doubling things. Right. But, yeah.
He likes it, in fact.
Yeah. If when an American West-themed world, he calls it a little win, and he used to think that a Wild West-themed world was an inevitability, but there are some tricky issues to work through.
Yeah.
He doesn't expand on that.
Guns.
I need a wand. Why not a wand?
We've never really seen wands in Magic.
No, but it's Magic. I mean, that's a piece of equipment. So all you have to do is have your wand slinger have to be equipped with a wand, and then you can have duels. I mean, you have a duel in a duel. That'd be awesome. I'm down with it. You guys want to play some duels and duels?
So we have a mechanic called Showdown.
Could be. All right, if when a supplemental crossover set, like Dungeons & Dragons The Gathering, that's a little if. He said it would have been a big if before Ikoria, which I just find that amazing.
I know.
That seems to me like that would be a little win at the worst.
Right, I just can't...
How hard can this be?
Right, whether it's Faerun, Greyhawk, Dragonlance, one of these worlds that is just hugely popular, has... dozens of novels.
It's already got creatures. It's got plenty of
legendary characters. We've got heroes. Like I said, there's huge novel series on multiple of these worlds. Like, they are known properties that Wizards has access to. It feels so natural.
I can tell you one of the things they're worried about. When you make a Dritz and you give him abilities, what are those abilities going to be? And how many people are you going to piss off?
That's fair.
That's one thing. How come the Beholder only has a power of this and a power of that? How come it costs 12 mana? Because it kills everybody. I don't know. You can see where there might be issues, I guess. All right. Norse mythology plane. That's a big win.
Yeah.
It's too popular a request to never do. I am also a believer that this is...
on the schedule.
It's on the schedule, and it's less than 4 years away.
I want to say
less than 3 years away.
I'm gonna throw it out. I did this last year and I was wrong because we got a whole release of like 4 sets, but at one time to get told to us. I feel like it's next year because I felt like it was going to be this year. I feel like we can't go very much longer before we.
It's on the short list, and almost all the short list has been done.
Right, and it's the one that gets the most talk, other than the Wild West plane, which has the issues, like they say.
Right.
Everybody, and we have a name for a Kaldheim. Is that right? We have a name for
Kaldheim,
a Norse plane, essentially, that we got from Plane Chase or something. We see. Everybody's just waiting for it.
If when another design revolution on the same scale as double-faced cards. He says, I'm not sure what exactly qualifies, but big win.
So he's done something crazy that's already coming down the pipe, is my feeling on that.
Well, Mutate just about does that, doesn't it? I mean, what else? I mean, another design revolution. I don't want folded cards.
I don't want triple face, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want any of those. So I'm not sure what kind of, we're going to get them that talk to us or 3D, hologram, boop,
There was some kind of game that worked like that for a little while.
Moving along. If when another set with a lot of Eldrazi. He says that's a little if. It would be a big if it was left up to him. I don't know. Wouldn't mind saying I want a few years to go by yet.
Right.
Once a decade's okay.
Once a decade. That's not a bad time.
Not every 2 years or anything. But hi, Mark. Win or if it returned to Kaladesh? I'd say a little win. The set did pretty well when all was said and done. It has great legs.
Yeah. It sold well all the way through its
He means
life
it sold well through its whole time on sale. More Gatewatch. They're my favorite part of the story, and I've missed them. That's a big win. I think the Gatewatch are coming back. They're giving us a break because people got tired of them.
Right.
Which is weird considering that the Avengers have been around for 50 plus years, and people aren't tired of the Avengers.
Right.
The Justice League, if we want to go DC, you know.
But the roster changes all the time, see?
It does. It does. They didn't change the roster fast enough. I personally got tired of having, and I love Nissa, but having a Nissa Planeswalker card in every set or a Jace Planeswalker card. When you can play 4 Nissas in Standard, there's a problem. And you're not even using a Planeswalker deck one.
Right. Well, then they just got to the point, too, I think they should have killed some more characters. The Gatewatch existed for 5-6 years, and then they finally killed Gideon.
Yeah, but I don't think they needed to kill him.
Maybe sometimes.
How many Avengers have died since it started?
So we're really just going into comic book. We are comic books. That is the realm that Magic takes up. Our heroes never die. Our villains never really die, and they always face back off again.
What do you want to compare it to?
Well,
Edgar Allan Poe.
Well, maybe the Raven,
nevermore.
The Raven Man.
Both the Raven Man, nevermore. Tolkien?
I just curious. Well, nobody dies in Tolkien either.
Well, what do you want to reference against?
I don't know. I just maybe you got to turn over that.
Die Hard. I'm trying to find other genres.
I just saying, if you turn over that roster, is it wrong to permanently get rid of some of these characters? Is it wrong?
Some people love some of those characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody loved Gideon.
Yeah.
Moving along. If win, Garrick as the focus Planeswalker for a set. That's a big win. And when we get it, it will be a big win. Yay. We want Garrick back.
We should go to this, a plane full of monsters. He'd be great there.
If win, more snow cards, be they in standard or supplemental. That's a little win. Snow went over well enough in Modern Horizons. I assume we'll see it again. In parentheses, I'm going to put Modern Horizons 2.
Probably.
Probably Modern Horizons 2. I don't know if we're going to get that in standard.
But Snow's only as powerful in Standard as what they print for Snow to do in Standard, so,
So are companions.
Valid.
How about a fleshed out Vryn in a set? Of course, Vryn is
where Jace comes from.
Yeah. Little win. The trick has been finding the right take on Jace's home plane. So
it's full of a whole bunch of amnesia.
It's got a bunch of sphinxes and
nobody remembers their name every day.
Mana battery things or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
If win a new card type, little win. I don't think it will necessarily happen soon, but I expect it to happen eventually.
That's fair.
I.e., coming next year. I don't know. I don't know what kind of card type. No, it'd be interesting to see.
Eventually, I agree. I mean, even if it's not soon, eventually, it's an eventuality.
Opens up new design space if you can find a new card type that fits in. If win a return of the Monarch mechanic, standard or otherwise, that also is a little win. Monarch plays really well in multiplayer. I expect to see it again in a multiplayer-focused product. So maybe like Commander or something. Yeah.
Maybe we'll see it in Commander Legends, our draftable set, even coming
Maybe.
Up. Monarch would actually be good, maybe in a limited format.
Makes things happen, keeps things moving. I like it. If win a legendary creature or creatures that care about and synergize with energy. He says that's a little win. I expect that to happen when energy returns. And oh yes, I expect energy to one day return.
Oh, when we go back to Kaladesh, we go back to energy as well.
But it won't be as good as it was the first time.
Oh, no, they learn.
Things will not... Well, I don't know, since they've been powering us down, as they say.
Well,
I don't know if we're getting to that later, but since they've been powering us down, we've talked about it before.
Well, they've been powering us up the last few sets now.
Yeah, but not since Kaladesh. In the last year, Kaladesh was over a year ago.
Right. They've been powering us up since War of the Spark, essentially, they say.
And our last one before we end the if-win day is dice rolling in black border. He gives that a little if. I want it to be a big if. I personally don't want it. Unsets have paved the way for many things to make it to black border. I wouldn't say dice are out of the realm of possibility long-term as black border keeps stretching. I don't want to see it. I think it's a net negative if we get there, personally. It may play just fine and dandy, but I feel like when we add that, if we add it as a random, how do we not add it as a random thing?
Well, we have coin flips in Magic, not very often. But
not very often. They've phased those out. So, moving along, we're done with if wins.
All right,
let's get back to the serious stuff. You implied that the vanity rule is one that can't be broken even by silver bordered. What are some of the other rules that even silver border has to follow? Now, if you're unsure about the vanity rule, it means that you can't make a card like Richard Garfield, PhD, or Nevin Rules Disc. You can't make a card that references a real life person, especially in R&D or in WotC. So silver border can't destroy other people's cards. That's a no-no. You can't destroy another person's cards.
Right.
You can't ask someone to do something that violates their local laws. And you can't break the color pie. Color pie is still sacrosanct in silver border.
That's right.
With Zendikar coming up again, will you guys show the next year's sets in advance like this time? I really enjoyed this version of release schedule. And then this is one of those he asked, what did you guys think of it? I liked it.
I did too. No, the next 4 sets, even though if we didn't know what Ikoria was, it was like...
Just knowing a year in advance, I liked it. I hope they keep up with it. That was really nice.
It was. I agree. I'd like to see that get dropped on us so we can all spend 6 months wondering what...
I think it fed a lot of people's curiosity, so, nobody's really curious about next year until we get to Zendikar this fall, and then people will start getting curious, so... So moving along, I'm not sure if anyone said this, but congrats on 9 years of Blogatog.
Wow.
I wanted to see when you started to see what your averages are, and the very first post is dated April 21st. If you were curious, you average about 845 pages a year, 70 pages a month, and 15 a week. Having read almost all of it, thank you for all of the content.
That's a lot of content.
He didn't realize it had been 9 years already, and he thanks everyone for reading. 9 years. I haven't been reading it for maybe 4 or 5 at best. I don't remember when I started reading it, but not over. I don't think over 4 years have I been.
845 pages a year.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, guys. I really narrow this down. So 15 a week, and I would say that this.
We do like 4 pages a week.
Yeah, I'll print it out, but I don't know that a page here equals a page.
Right. But I mean, we're just approximating what we know.
Yeah.
You know.
Other than getting to work with the literal father of the game, what do you most enjoy about having Richard on a design team?
I thought this was very
Richard Garfield.
Right.
Richard is one of the best designers I've ever worked with at what I call blue sky design. That is seeing something that doesn't exist yet, but should.
I don't know if I'd ever heard that term, if I'd ever heard Maro use the term blue sky design, but I've heard him talk about working with Richard Garfield and how Richard Garfield does that.
Yeah, he just comes in and he just knows what he wants.
Right.
He's got these ideas and he wants to make them happen, and
Right.
it just shakes everything up because it's like a breath of fresh air, you know.
Right.
Because he only works on a set like every 4 or 5 years now.
Something like that, yeah.
Let's see, since Innistrad, has he worked on a set since
He was there for Dominaria, right?
Dominaria.
He came in for
Dominaria is the
Dominaria.
last set. Innistrad was the set before that he worked on.
Yeah.
So just every few years they get him.
Yeah, but
So maybe we're getting close to another one.
Maybe.
Well, it's probably a few years yet.
But, you know, like when he talks about when they worked on Tempest together and he invented cycling or something. You know, we should have a way to utilize these cards. You don't have anything else to do with in your hand, you know. And
Neat idea.
Created, like, one of the most beloved mechanics we have in the game.
All right. Do you think we'll see colorless mana and a casting cost in a set that doesn't feature the Eldrazi? One day.
Yep.
It requires a lot more support in a set than might be obvious at first blush. And I get that.
Yeah.
You got to have plenty of sources that produce colorless.
You probably got to put waste back in, and you got to make sure you have mana rocks that are doing it, and other lands
and
that
you
are.
got to have other non-basics that are producing colorless.
Right.
Yeah. Today is my 31st birthday. May I have trivia on any, not me,
Right.
on any Magic the Gathering product created besides the cards?
I didn't know this one.
We once made a promotional bag of M&Ms in Magic colors with a Magic M instead of the normal M&Ms M to be given out at a Friday Night Magic. We called them F&M and M's. Happy birthday. I believe I've been open for that. I think.
Really?
I think so. I didn't save any. I think
Right.
we ate them. But it might have been before my time. But I didn't look this up to see it was in the last 10 years.
Right. I didn't know they'd ever done. That's really cool. I mean, you know, of all the weird promotional stuff you hear that they do sometimes, you know, because there's some weird ones that Wizards will do sometimes.
I thought the coloring book with the crayons was really cool.
Right.
I was definitely open for that. I saved one of those. So, all right. Oh, we already did that one. Oh, we're pretty close.
Yeah.
Digital got releases of remastered sets with Tempest Remastered and Amonkhet Remastered. Do you think Paper might be able to see a remixed old block turned into a standalone set? Would people like that? And if so, what sets would you like to see? So again, this kicks back to the if-when we talked about a while ago. So it came up again. People are wanting remastered sets. I don't know that I'm...
You can't do anything... You can only do from, like, Mercadian Mask and past. You can't really remaster anything that still has reserve list cards, right?
Sure you can. You just don't print the reserve list.
Right, but, you know, the reasons that people are going to want those are for some of the reserve list cards.
Tempest had reserve list cards, but it was done digitally.
It was done digitally, so they were able to put
I think the
cards.
remastering is for the digital products. I don't think it's for paper products. I don't think we need it in paper products.
That's fair.
That's just a personal opinion.
I don't know. I mean, they're giving us stuff. They give us a lot of reprint products, and anyway, but to like,
how about Mystery Booster is just a giant remastered
Magic.
20 years?
Right? Yeah, I gotcha.
Mystery Booster's a hit. Thank you, Wizards of the Coast, if any of you watch this, because I found out today my allocation got doubled. So, Thank you. WotC is giving me about half as much money as the government gave me because of COVID. So, thank you, WotC. You've mentioned that Blogatog's audience is much more enfranchised than the average Magic player.
Oh, yeah.
What are some insights you're able to glean from us and our feedback that actually do apply to the wider community? There are plenty of overlaps between more enfranchised players and less enfranchised players. You mostly like the same things with two major exceptions. Enfranchised players can handle and appreciate more complex things, and they have a much higher appreciation for nostalgia-based things.
Yeah.
Like the fact we're losing our DCI numbers.
I will never forget mine. It is just it is burned into my head. Like, I don't know why. Since I was a kid, it's one of the things, like, I can remember our address when I was a little kid, the house phone number there, and my DCI number.
You know, with 5 digits, it was easy for me to remember. I'm going to miss that, so. In the Magic player base, do you think there's approximately an even 3-way split between Timmies, Johnnies, and Spikes?
Oh, Lord, no.
Or are any of those groups more populated than others? So if you're not clear, Timmies are the power gamers. I like to cast the big
They want to play Galta.
Oh, yeah. Johnnies, they like combos. They want to put 2 or 5 cards together and do something cool. And then Spikes just want to win. They want to...
They don't care how.
Just, if I can beat you on turn... If I can beat you without you drawing a card, that's the way I want to do it.
Right.
Are there any more groups more populated than others? No, there's more Timmies and Tammies than anything else. Spikes in the middle, and there are the least amount of Johnnies and Jennies.
I found that a little... I guess.
Fewer combo players. Yeah.
I guess so.
I get that.
I mean, Timmy is by far...
Obviously.
Yeah.
That's what Magic was made
That's
for.
What Magic,
Throw monsters at one another.
Magic was made for the Timmies.
That's what it was made for.
And we just got a Timmy set.
We are the chosen ones.
Right.
Our last question is a pretty good one. Mark, people seem very worried about the power level of recent sets in comparison with previous times. Is Wizards acknowledging this and making an effort to tone down future sets on this regard? About a year ago, we made a conscious effort to raise up the power level of current sets as it had drifted downwards for a number of years, and players had complained about it. It's not currently higher than it's been at past times of Magic's life. So, I guess I'll ask, what is all your opinion of Magic's current power level for standard legal sets? Is it A, too low? You'd like to see us make standard legal sets more powerful.
No, I don't think that.
B, just right. You'd like to see us keep standard legal sets at the power level they currently are. Or C, too high. You'd like to see us make standard legal sets less powerful. When you choose A, B, or C, explain why. So, we're all going to fall somewhere on the spectrum.
Right.
My thing with this whole deal is that he says about a year ago, we made a conscious effort to raise up the power level of current sets. What that tells me is that the sets we're playing today were made 2 years ago. And 1 year ago, before they sent them to the printer, after they'd been completed, they went in and tweaked them.
Yep. Play design.
That's what they meant. They went in and they looked at them and go, oh, no. Oko's not good enough.
They went in and Oko. That's what I was about to say. They started slashing casting costs and upping loyalties or something.
He doesn't say that 2 years ago or 3 years ago we made this decision so that a year ago the cards you got were more powerful. No, 1 year ago we did it.
Now, I'll agree. I think I fall right in the middle of this. I think it's about right. There are some cards that are too powerful. But, like he says, it's no more powerful than other times in Magic's past. We are not on Urza block level. We're not on Mirrodin level. We're not breaking the game. People aren't just walking away like, oh, my God. You know.
We all like to play powerful decks.
Right.
You don't want to play something where there is no power. So I'd rather they push the power a little than not, I guess.
Right. Especially since I don't play a lot of Eternal formats. I guess it doesn't hit me as bad as some of those people that play the Eternal formats. And we've talked about it recently. Them feel like they've become rotating in more senses of your deck changing way more often with each standard set. I don't see that. I like playing standard and stuff like that, and I play Pioneer, which is more of a new format anyway, so I don't notice those effects, and I assume for those people it is much worse. But I like seeing these powerful cards every set, changing Magic. They miss the mark sometimes, like the Okos, but I think I'd prefer that to the low power. If you have to ban a card every now and then, I think it's better than a card never being ban worthy. That's a bigger problem, I think.
And everybody just going, I wish I could do something really cool.
Right.
I got to do something really cool, but it was too cool and they had to ban it.
Right. It's hard. It's a hard balance, but I think they've found a pretty good spot. I think we'll see how it all comes down after Companion.
Let's give it a little bit more time, like he's always saying. Let's give it some time, see how it shakes out.
Yeah.
Time will tell. Anyway, guys, that's all we got for this week.
Yep.
Unless you had something else.
No, I think
that's all I had on my notes.
I think we are good to wrap that up. I thank everybody for coming back and joining us again.
And we're going to call that a wrap on Reblogatog number 8. Thanks a bunch.